My name is Stacy Wood. I'm a partner with Parker, Poe, Adams & Bernstein, and I practice in the Employment and Employee Benefits Group. I always wanted to be a lawyer. There was a female in my neighborhood growing up. She was the first female partner in the town I grew up in, and my father made it a point when I was in 8th or 9th grade of introducing me to her, and I went with her and spent a day and just thought it was really cool how she had this big office in a big building, and she was a lawyer. I didn't really know what that meant at the time, but it sounded good. And from that point on, that was my goal, and gradually I learned to understand what lawyers did and then evolved into being the employment lawyer that I am today. The best advice I ever received was from my father, who said, "Promise good, deliver great." That has stood with me throughout a lot of things, both in my personal life and in my professional life. And I think if you do that, you make a promise that you're going to do something and then exceed that promise, you're never going to come away short. What makes me good at what I do is again, being direct, personable, but direct, not beating around the bush, tackling the hard questions with a straightforward answer. Sometimes clients might not like to hear that, and then my job is to help them work with the answer to get their result. But I think lawyers too often try to dance around the issue instead of laying it out on the table and then working on creating a solution that works for everybody. I think the best way to understand a client's business is to talk to them. Go out to their site, meet them, see what they do, see their facilities. Googling, researching is helpful, but until you're on the ground, sitting there, listening to a client talk and hearing their passion, you don't get a real feel for what they do. I think the biggest mistake attorneys make is not listening to their clients, is getting caught up in the here's what the law says, rather than here's what the client wants. How do we accomplish that within the parameters of the law? So listening to the client and accomplishing their goal rather than having the lawyer's goal be the focus. So I try to focus on what the client wants and how to get there. The best way I can tell when I've done a good job is 2-3 months maybe after I finished a matter for a client and I get a call out of the blue from someone else, a prospective client, saying such and such at ABC company said you did work for them and did a great job and I have an issue and I'd like you to help me with. To me, that's how I know. It's a referral. That's the best thing you can get as a lawyer. Clients are entitled to disagree. Disagreement is not necessarily a bad thing. Disagreement means there's maybe not understanding on both sides as to what goals are or what outcomes are. So when a client disagrees, I use that as an opportunity to have further dialogue, for me to try to better understand what I may be missing in terms of the client's goals, and hopefully for me to help further educate the client on why I'm making the recommendation I'm making. At the end of the day, lawyers make recommendations and try to be a business partner, but clients have to run their business, and there are other things that dictate their responses and their actions, not just the legal advice. That's just a small piece of the picture, and lawyers need to understand that. Many lawyers come out of law school with a theoretical perception of how you practice law. I've learned this in the books, and this is what it says, and this is what I'm going to tell the client to do. And I think what you learn, and I've been doing this for 20+ years now, is that's all great, and what the law says and what you should do is part of the process, but understanding the client and what their needs are and getting them what they need within the confines of the law, communicating what the law says in a practical, business-oriented, direct manner, that's the important evolution lawyers need to make. And sometimes that takes time and experience and just, basically time in the trenches. I'd either be a veterinarian or a whitewater rafting guide in the Canadian Rocky Mountains. I'm not qualified to do either of those things, but I think those both would be fascinating jobs.